yeah, he basically stole 65 billion from people who were investors with him. And but the curious thing is, his sons started to get really suspicious when he was giving out like £1 million bonuses to his staff and everything. And they went to him and they asked, well, what's going on, Dad? And that's when he came across, that's when he revealed that it's a Ponzi scheme. It's all one big lie, boys. Don't worry, it's one big lie.
What was that? What was his name?
Bernie Madoff.
Did they make a film about it?
I think there is
Robert
a film.
De Niro.
Is it?
Yeah, I think a HBO film. I think
that sounds.
It sounds. It sounds.
I would be surprised if they hadn't have made a film by now. But yeah, that's what he did. And you know what his prison sentence is? Like 135 years, mate. 135 years, and that's with good behaviour. That's with good behaviour. But that's like one of the most famous Ponzi schemes that have been out. He was just fudging all the figures, faking share prices and share transactions. Just lies all over the place.
Yeah, it is that film. It's called The Wizard of Lies.
Yeah.
I did see that because it was the sons that made me remember that film. Yeah, it's quite tragic actually.
Yeah,
but because it's Robert De Niro, I was like, cut him some slack, man.
Yeah, no. That was a bit of a sad story. The sons, one of them committed suicide afterwards as well.
Don't spoil the movie.
Mate, it's been way too long.
He's got his spoiler rule in it.
Yeah, see? Plus, and here's something I forgot from the last episode. How can you spoil something that's non-fiction?
People say
that. Story.
People say that. They were saying that about, that film, I think it's called The Man or something like that, about Armstrong, who went on the moon.
Yeah.
And they were like, one of the film critics I was listening to was like, well, I don't want to spoil it. It was like, what?
He made it to the moon.
Surely he made it to the moon. And they was like, well, no. And he said that he spoiled Apollo 13. And when he reviewed that, and people were complaining because they were like, I didn't know what was going to happen in Apollo 13, you spoiled it. So he's like, from now on, he just any historical thing.
The landing on the moon is a different
thing. Yeah. But plus, things that happen in history, you should know. You should know. That's the reason you're going to see the movie. Bernie Madoff was actually a founder of NASDAQ. Oh, so you know that financial institute. NASDAQ. NASDAQ. So
he would have got off if he was a founder of NASDAQ. They loved that.
So he was a big figure. Thinking of movies that have con men in them or scammers in them. So what did you just say? The
Wizard of Lies.
The Wizard of Lies.
Yeah.
The Wolf of Wall Street. Great film. Catch Me If You Can.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, you've not seen Catch Me If You Can?
With Tom Hanks and that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it's been out for like 8 years, so I'm gonna spoil the hell out of it.
Everything.
No, I won't. But Frank Abagnale Jr., which is the character played by Leonardo DiCaprio, is a real person. Majority of the film is real life events that happen. So yeah, as you watch it, just realise that this guy pulled off a lot of these things in real life. This isn't a spoiler because it's not in the film, but after everything that happens in the film, he works for the government, the US government.
Yeah, of course, a lot of hackers work for the government, don't they?
Yeah. If you're a good enough scammer, you come over to the other side and help us catch those scammers.
Just trying to work on your CV, all that scamming.
Exactly.
There's a film called Matchstick Men. Have you seen that one? It's about con men.
No, I never knew.
It's very good. Very, very good. Nicolas Cage is probably the last good movie.
Nicolas Cage.
Oh, he's good in this.
I was about to write that down as a recommendation until you said
no, he's good in this. Trust me.
Which type of Nicolas Cage movie is it?
Early Nicolas Cage. No, he's good. But then there's a scam in that where there's a scratch card, and then he makes it look like, I think he puts a little bend in where where it's an extra zero or something, and he puts a little extra zero, and then he'll get find someone who's quite vulnerable and go, look, listen, I've won the jackpot, which isn't too big, like maybe like £500 or something.
Yeah.
I've won this £500, but I'm leaving out of town, so you can cash it. Oh, it's probably more than that because the woman in it was quite happy. But it's that you can cash it. It looked legit because of the little tampering they did with the thing. Just give me half, and then give me 10% or whatever, and then it shows this little old woman going, "Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, yeah, I'll give you." And it gives her the money, and then and you can see she's got that lottery ticket. That's the thing. Like these scams, you've got to know who to scam, and it's horrible because it's usually the elderly,
the most vulnerable people you can find.
It's usually
You actually just reminded me of the other scam that I would, not directly but indirectly, I was affected by, which was my mum was a nurse, and as she was approaching retirement, the trust, the NHS trust that she was working for, arranged like a meeting for like all the people who were like 55, like around that. Saying you're approaching retirement. Do you want to like come and hear about your options? And this is a provider that we're like suggesting that you go with, sort of thing. And I always remember, like, I came back from work, I think, and there was this guy and this one woman in the house talking to my mum, all these sheets, blah blah blah. And it was really weird because he was really like kind of Jerry Springer, like dynamic guy, and then there's this one woman just like sitting there not saying anything, like young girl on. And it basically transpired that they were scam artists. They scammed the NHS, managed to get in as like saying that they were these really good like pension providers. And they'd like, luckily my mum decided to defer, like she stayed on, carried on working. But there were like tens of thousands of nurses.
What happened to those people then?
They were funded eventually, like, the NHS Trust had to take the hit sort of thing, but they'd actually managed to get a contract with the NHS to like go out and like go into people's homes. Like they were in our home just like selling fake products.
If you've got the NHS behind you.
But look, the afterthought, like when you think back and think, I let those scammers in and they were on the sofa and I made them a cup of tea and all this kind of stuff. I think as an elderly, vulnerable person, that like lasting memory of you having them that close to you and they were just lying through their teeth. That does its own damage in a huge way as well. Even online, like elderly people are kind of vulnerable, as in pop-ups and all of those kind of things. They're all lies and fiction. All those anti-aging adverts and stuff, they're for elderly people, as in they'll be trying to sell them creams and balms that will help you look young, and they'll just be putting all of their money into those kind of things. So they're trying to be progressive by getting on the internet and getting used to it, but they're not technologically savvy enough to know that certain things that come up in front of you are going to be nonsense. The other one that comes from pop-ups, whenever it goes, oh, you may have a virus on your computer, and just to press X, you're just lying. Of course I don't. People that actually press that button, they get through to like call centers that will offer to help fix what's on your computer, and you give them remote access so they can get onto your computer. And after that, it's over. Then they can basically do whatever they want. They can delete your files. They can install Trojan horses. They can install all sorts of things from you just wanting to get your computer cleaned. And it's a thing of, you would pay the money, and before long, the computer has a similar issue, but you've got a direct number to the guys who you paid last time, and they'll just turn that into like a cash cow and just start making so much money off of that. We got to live skeptical, guys. You got to live skeptical,
especially with parents and stuff. You got to you got to just tell them just not to trust anyone.
How the tables have turned.
No, it actually reminds me. Like last month, 2 people went to my parents' house, and one of them said, there's a leak upstairs. We want to look at it, and then I was like, I wasn't there. And my dad was like, can I see some ID? Oh, we've got it in the van. Like I said, we've got it in the van. But we really need to see. And it was my mum who actually she just trusts everyone. It was my mum who was just like, just let him in, and she said something like, he doesn't trust anyone, or something like really ridiculous. When they told the story, like the amount of times I slapped my head. But like, so then one of them was downstairs, and he kept on asking questions like, "Oh, this is a nice house," and blah blah blah, and then like charming my mum basically. Yeah. And my dad was getting a bit, he was just looking around. While they did that, he said all he was doing was putting the tap on. And then the other person went upstairs. Yeah. And then my dad. That's when my dad was like, "Why is it going?"
Yeah, what do you need up there?
It's like, "What you need to get idea." And then my dad started getting like really arsey and going, "You got to get out. I don't trust you." Yeah. And he was like, "Oh, okay." And then he called his friend down. He's obviously had a rummage upstairs. There was nothing to take, but still. And then but the thing is, because my mum and dad, they don't know anything about technology, so all I got was a text in the middle of the night that just went, "They've robbed my internet." And I went, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I'm trying to sleep." And I was like, "Dad, what are you on about?" "They've robbed the internet." And I was like, "What?" And then they went, they told me the story, and I was like, "Dad, you call the police." Yeah. "Oh, what do you think?" And I was like, "I can't believe you let someone in the house." Yeah. Like you said, like they're that close to your mum, and
exactly
you get angry. And then the reason he said they robbed the internet was because I changed the Netflix account because I had to change password. I changed the password, forgot to tell my dad, so he couldn't get into that. And then he got one of those flash, those internet. Pop-up saying someone's using your
Netflix account,
your broadband or something. Yeah. So he was like, "They've stolen it. They've stolen the internet." And I was like, "Dad, you can't steal the internet." I was like, "No, they've stolen it. They've stolen no." And then he was like, "Oh," and it was just all these things that just fell into place or out of place because his phone line didn't work as well. Well, that was just like a coincidence. Yeah. But he just like everything came together. It's like, I can't believe it. They went upstairs and stole the internet. And I was just like, "Oh no!" And I just said, because they didn't even think to call the police, so I called the police. I called the police next day, and they were very good. They took it very seriously. They came round, saw my mum and dad just to reassure them, tell them like, and it was just like really funny because they were like, "We might go around and like search for fingerprints." Yeah. And then my dad was like, they were wearing gloves.
Oh, they were wearing gloves.
He's like, and then everyone just slapped their head like, "Oh my god, it was so obvious you're getting robbed." But they've learnt their lesson, so
fair enough. Yeah. I didn't expect the story to go there, but that's a somewhat light-hearted ending to
exactly. It was really scary at the time, and it made me really angry. I couldn't sleep that night. But luckily, those guys were, like you said, they were con men. They weren't violent or anything. They just wanted, they knew who lived there. They were probably scouted the place, two old elderly people.
They knew who to prey on.
And they weren't there to. They were just there to just take stuff. Yeah. But they just stole the internet.
Well, let this be a warning to you all: protect your internet at all costs.
No ID, no coming.
Alright, so these charity workers as well, sometimes I feel like they might be scamming, and I think it's just that approach that they have to people in the street, where it's the same kind of, I want to gain your confidence, gain your trust, get pally really quick, and then it's going to go to this conversation.
Is that a bit different though, the way they get your attention to what their cause is? Because they need to do different. They have to be. "Oh, you alright, mate? Oh, that's a nice phone." Like to try and
I don't know. I think maybe I sometimes feel just a disconnect between the way they come across and what their intentions are behind it. So I know.
That's the thing. For starters, it's a job, and for me, I think that the big distinction is if someone actually works for the charity, so it can be set up differently. If you're in-house, like when I did it years ago, I was part of the charity, so part of all the operations they're doing, that was just the department I worked in. Fundraising, basically. But the majority of them that you see on the street, they work for agencies.
Yeah, so it's outsourced.
Outsourced. They don't actually know anything about the charity, and they work from one charity to the next, and they might not care about it from the next to the next. Or they maybe some of the people that I met, they just really care about like philanthropy and